Hello, hello.
Hello. What are we talking about today, my friend?
Well, I think it's a good time to go over our the game we play with time.
Hmm. That sounds like
So,
Pandora's box, to be honest.
yeah, so there is a process we go through. We introduced it at our workshop, and we also do it weekly in the mastery circle. And we actually look at our time. So
Hmm.
there's 24 hours in a day. And we did this really good analysis in the workshop where we showed in a typical day we tried to cram like 26, 27 hours in to a 24-hour day, and we wonder why we always feel so behind. Right.
Right. Yeah. So, like, if we looked at all the things the average person might do sleep, eat, watch TV, go to work, commute, go to the grocery store. If you just even write all those categories out and just make a wild guesstimate based off your life,
Mhm.
more than likely you're going to end up in the red.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think we all live it. Like you said, we live in the red because at the end of the day, we go, I did all of these things and I still didn't even touch XYZ.
Right. Or we do the opposite. I was busy all day but didn't get anything done because we're
Mm,
real bad about giving ourselves credit for the things that we actually did.
right. And what we're really saying in those moments is, I didn't get the things that I really wanted to do. And
Mhm.
that's what the time game is all about is if you want to achieve a goal, you have to you have to prioritize the tasks, the actions that
Mhm.
get you to the goal. And that's where the first stumbling block that I think we all encounter is you can only go for so long, like rearranging your schedule to make it the number one thing, right?
Right.
That
Mhm.
motivation that says, I get up at 5 a.m. and I go to the gym and and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That falls apart within a, a week, maybe
Uh,
two. Depends on
yeah.
how much willpower you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. But
Me,
the willpower power runs out. Period.
and
Yeah.
so and that's a health goal or whatever, however you want to frame it, but I mean that's true for anything new we try to put in our life, because we don't ever look at, do I even have time to do all the things that I already am committed to doing? And we're not, it's easy to get womp womp about this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, something interesting that I realized was I've always been a calendar person, right? I mean, I've always put my commitments on my calendar, appointments, meetings, things like, because I'm not going to remember them if I don't put them on my calendar.
Hmm.
And then I had a to-do list, and it was miles long. And somehow my brain just saw things on a piece of paper, and it was like, well, I can get all this done today because I never stopped and like, how long does each one of these take? Right.
Hmm.
And so until I started actually looking, so I, again, you start with your commitments, your appointments, the things that you are committed to doing, because those don't move. You can't rearrange a live or a coaching call or things of that nature. But it wasn't until I sat down with my to-do list and said, okay, how long are each one of these tasks going to take? And what can I really put in between these other obligations?
Mm, yeah, yeah, because I think we don't put any thought into that list and like the time it's going to take. Um, and then even if we do, we somehow, like if you added it all up for one day and you got to 11 hours, you still somehow think you've got some magical superpower. Oh, I overestimated the time it's going to take to
Oh,
do
yeah.
those things, like, oh, I'll still get through it all.
Right.
Probably not.
Well, no, or you're so tired, you end up doing nothing if
Right.
you keep pushing that way,
Yeah.
the 11-hour day or, whatever. Yeah.
So I think like the challenge that becomes is that gap between the life we live and the life we want, which is often represented by I'm focused on this goal,
hmm
right?
hmm
And it's like the Grand Canyon. Like it's a huge gap if you sit down for most people.
Oh, yeah. It was for me. I'm still struggling with it.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's it's not something you solve in one sitting.
Oh,
Like
no.
she's like, how could you even think that? I'm like, but I think that we get in our brain, like, if I just sat down and was more planful and more diligent,
Mhm.
like, I could bridge the gap and, like, this week would go like clockwork and I'd get the things that I wanted done. So I think that's the first thing is recognizing, like, hey, like, if you're like going, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know if I want to look under that covers,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Of yes. If you think like if you're like I have to figure this all out in the span of a week or two, you're going to stop and just go back to your old way of doing.
Mhm. Yeah. For sure.
So you have to be willing to do it in small bits and learn from each iteration.
For sure. I mean, you really got to put the scientist lab coat on
Yeah. Yeah.
because first off, we can't even estimate task time very good.
Right.
Either we way overestimate or we way underestimate. And I would almost bet we way underestimate. It's not
Right.
like we ever give ourselves any grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should be able to do this in
5
15.
minutes.
Oh, yeah. I was going to go nicer. 15 minutes.
Yes. Yes. That 5-minute email that now is an hour later and you still have not hit send.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right. For
exactly.
sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I think you have to play it from both ends. Like,
hmm
I think you have to play it from the end of, okay, yes, I am not fully aware of all the things on my plate and um I need to work towards getting a better understanding. That's
hmm
one end of it. The other end is, and I have this goal, and to keep me moving forward, I want to see some positive momentum. Because if you try to fix everything, you're never going to get to the place where you think, oh, now I can start working on my goals. So you have to do both things, work both ends at the same
hmm
time.
Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like one of the things that we focus on in the mastery circle is identifying your top actions for the day.
hmm Yeah.
So that allows you to get a narrower list, you know, 1 to 3 things that you're committing to doing. And some of those things, we would say at least one of those things is tied to your goal
hmm
so that you are moving the ball down the field, so to speak, since,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
right. At the same time as starting to get into, okay, what am I really committing to?
hmm
What does it really take? I always use the crock pot example
hmm
because that's me. And I'm always like, oh, we're gonna have a crock pot meal. Well, I always gloss over the prep time because even if it's a dump and go, you still have to put the stuff in the crock pot in the morning,
Right.
right?
You got to open the cans. You still got to get the stuff out of the pantry. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not and let's be honest. Uh Again, that sometimes is not a 5-minute task. It's more like a 25-minute task.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Well, and the other thing I think is when we are planning or when we are doing this, one, we don't leave enough white space in
Mm.
between like meetings or tasks, things of that nature. And we don't factor in the unexpected.
Well, that's unexpected. How would we do that, Jen?
I mean, at least give yourself some buffer, that something just might come up today that's going to require me to shift.
Yeah. I think that's where time blocking can sometimes block us into a corner, pun
Mhm.
intended,
Right,
because people put the time blocks back to back to back to back to back with no white space or allowance for your kids coming in and wanting to show what they did at school,
right.
you know. So we love time blocking, but it's humanist time blocking, meaning we are not robots.
Right. For sure. For sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not even realistic that you can go from the time you start until the time you finally push away and never take a break. This is our habit for this month. But,
Right.
and you know, I am a time blocker just because I like to, it's a visual for me. It's not necessarily, okay, if I block something from 1 to 2, I may not start right at 1. And I know I struggled with that some, but it's more to say, okay, how much time do I really think this is going to take? And do I have the space on my calendar to even start and finish this, or at least start this and get to a place where I can stop?
Yeah. Well, and I would say the other piece of that is why can't the things that we want in our lives, whether that's the actions that we're going to take to get to a goal, or even like I want to have a nice home cooked meal every night. Like why are we so resistant to accounting for that in our day to day?
Yeah,
You
because that
know,
doesn't count.
right, it doesn't count. If it's not if if I'm not hopping on a call with someone else because of X, Y, it doesn't elevate itself to being like worthy of being on the calendar. And
Mm,
it's a balance, right?
yeah,
Right. But I mean, I think that you know, your the things that you proclaim are important to you, if they're not represented on your calendar, it's not blocking off the time to say to you and even other people if they have access to schedule on your calendar to say like this time is already called for. It's
yeah.
already reserved.
Hmm. You got to be dying or bleeding
Right.
in order to get on that part of my calendar. Yeah, and that's another good point. I mean, if time blocking sounds too rigid, um, you know, I know that I perform the best in the morning. I could push out more busy work or content or, whatever
You're more
falls.
productive and efficient at that time.
Yeah, I'm fresh. I'm not,
Yeah.
my cup is full at that time. I rarely have client meetings, things that are in my control during that block of time.
Mhm.
All of my client meetings that I control go into my afternoon because I enjoy it. I don't need to have a full cup because it's just it's more natural for me to,
Yeah, it fills your cup up by being engaging with people in that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if time blocking is not something that is lighting you up, start noticing when you're enjoying what you're doing based on the time of day that you're doing it in.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. Yeah. I mean, I have become more protective of my morning time also. And I think it's for most people, that's going to
It is.
be your most productive time because your brain is well rested. Like you're kind of starting with that fresh slate feeling of the day. You've got more cognitive resources for that prefrontal thinking.
Mhm.
Um, which is why, you know, having things that feel really easy to you or fun for you is better to put in the afternoon time when maybe your energy isn't as high, you know. And I agree. I mean, even though I'm a strong introvert, I still show up for people when it's regardless of the time
Sure.
and, you know, will tap into the energy I need to be my best.
Yeah,
And, you
for sure.
know,
Yeah.
unless you live in a cave, isolated from the world, we've all, if you're an introvert, you've learned how to raise your energy and be part of, you know, be with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it just may more, I may not leave the calls and, you know, run out and want to socialize with a bunch of other people. What I'm going to do in the
Sure.
evening might be different, but we're all still capable of it. You
Yeah.
know, or it's like the 15-minute tasks that are like, oh, reschedule this appointment or respond to this request. Those are great things to put in the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what we're trying to tell you is look at your time. I mean, look at it almost like your money
Mm,
because time will run out.
yeah.
It's not infinite. So, it's like you get 24 hours every day.
Yeah.
How do
And
you want to spend it?
as solo business owners, solo entrepreneurs, the reason why I hear a lot of people and myself included, the reason why we wanted to do our own thing was partially time freedom.
To have more time
Yeah.
to do what we wanted.
Yeah. And if you're finding yourself working 10, 12, 14 hours a day every Saturday and Sunday, and you're exhausted all the time, I would ask you, how's that going for you?
Yeah.
And it isn't, and we're gonna say it right now, we're gonna say it loud. It is not required to be successful.
Mm, no, it is
No.
not.
No. So wearing it as a badge of honor, saying that, oh, I'm doing this because I have to hustle, I have to grind to get to this level of success. We're going to call BS on that and say, no.
No, that's corporate. That's how we've been conditioned. They conditioned us to work harder and not. Yeah, yeah, this is a conditioning.
Yeah.
So the challenge is find the things that move the needle, focus on those.
And get them scheduled into your calendar and treat it like a commitment.
Yes, because time will run out.
Yeah.
It does every day. It
I feel
starts
we got a little preachy. So
over.
start where start where you're at.
Mhm, mhm,
Work on getting a better handle, like looking at your calendar like a scientist.
mhm,
You know, be willing to be honest with yourself and say, yeah, this thing that I've been doing just because it's on my calendar,
mhm.
it really doesn't, it isn't what I want to do. Be willing to find those things. And then on the other side of the equation, be open to putting what you actually want to achieve, what you actually prioritize on your life, on your calendar, so that at least when you're confronted with the choice of doing this thing that you've already pre-committed to or this thing someone says you should do,
Mm,
you can actually know that you're making a choice.
yeah, yeah. So last week for the habit, it'll be changing next week.
Yeah.
And
10 minutes, reset break.
Grab
Another
it.
great,
Yeah,
grab it.
grab
Like,
it.
grab it before it's gone. Grab the workbook. It's got some great ways
and
to supercharge your productivity.
and next week we're going to try something new.
I know.
We are going to introduce the new habit, and we're going to have an open office hour, open Q&A, stump the coach. We haven't come up with a fabulous name yet, but we want your questions. We want to know, what is it that you want help solving? And we are going to answer those live on the spot.
On
And I
the
know we
spot.
can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
It will be fun. Yeah. So if you look for that invite to that live, certainly we'd love to have you there live, giving us some questions. But even if you can't join, pop your question into the chat, the comment boxes, and we will answer those too during the live call next week. So
Yeah. All right.
awesome.
Can't wait till next week.
All right, do not hide from the time.
Yes, do not. Look at your time. All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Awesome.